Hey, friends, and welcome to the Genius Way Show. I'm your host, Ben Hummel. And to get us going on our topic today, I wanted to start with a very small story about two Zen teachers. And here we go. So, once there was a teacher named Daizan, and he was kind of walking on the path through the village and came upon another teacher called Fayang. And Daizan said, "Hey, Fayang, where are you going?" And Fayang says, "Oh, I'm going on a pilgrimage. I'm going to walk through the mountains and go here." And he said, "So what is the pilgrimage about?" And Fayang was like, "I don't know." And Daizang says, "Not knowing is the most intimate." And so this is a topic that we're going to get into today. Not knowing. What does that actually mean? What is the importance of that? And, if you've spent any time looking at your life, any time in introspection, you will see that, in terms of like life experiences, sometimes we don't know. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're going to do. And we don't like that very much. We don't like not to know. It makes us very uncomfortable. It feels vulnerable. It feels scary. It seems problematic not to know. Everything in the world is based on knowledge, what we know, what we're supposed to know, how to get that knowledge, how to become aware of something. But not very much time is spent on not knowing. That's something that we're taught to want to avoid at all costs. When we don't know, we're at a disadvantage. But in fact, not knowing is a very, very, very important part of our lives. It's a very, very important and powerful time in terms of learning something on a life scale, not like a mental scale necessarily, but on the basis of like life experience. The times when we don't know are the ones that are, like that story says, the most intimate. So what does he possibly mean by intimate? So when let's say two people are intimate, that kind of presupposes that they are really unmasked or vulnerable to each other. They tell their secrets. They kind of say things that they wouldn't say to other people. They act in ways they wouldn't act with other people. But what does it mean? What does intimacy mean in terms of not knowing? Like Fayong was saying, what does that mean? And so to be intimate in this context means to be intimate with your own life experience. And most of the time, when we are moving about in this world, knowing things out of, a sense of, I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to be scared. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. So I know things. When we move around in that way, not knowing, it's a whole other world opens up. So the trick is, how in the world do we get comfortable with not knowing things, with not knowing what's happening or what we're doing or where we're going? How do we become, really just okay with that? And that's the topic of today's program. It's like, why is it important to be okay, to be comfortable when we don't know, what's going on? So there's a lot of reasons for that, but the main reason here is that your perceptions become heightened when we don't know. And what I mean by our perceptions, I'm not talking about anxiety and survival. I'm saying when we don't know, something else has to kick in for us to perceive the world, because we can't perceive it through knowledge. Okay, let's say you're having a time in your life when you don't know where to focus your energy. You don't know how to move forward. You're feeling stuck. That's a familiar thing. My clients that I work with and my coaching clients, it's very common. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the next thing to do is. I don't know what the right move is. I don't know which one I should choose, or I don't even know what to choose. So this kind of knowing feels really uncomfortable, but to be able to get comfortable with that provides a few things. Number one, when you're comfortable with that, you get to use your imagination. Your imagination gets primed to seek out an answer. Your creativity um, gets gets kind of sparked because I don't know what to do, so I'm going to figure out what to do. And so to be able to do these things without getting freaked out, but to realize not knowing, besides being the most intimate, not knowing is a natural state. It's part of our natural state that we live in, from time to time, or in terms of some, like these two Zen teachers, they try to live in that space. So why would one try to live in a space of not knowing? It's because when you're comfortable with not knowing, you don't just become some blob that kind of just sits there like, I don't know what to do, so I can't even move. I'm too freaked out to move. That's the fear. When you're in an active state of not knowing, your knowledge, which you've naturally gleaned through your life, it doesn't go anywhere. You have it. In fact, you have more access to it. You have access to your lived experience and your wisdom. You have access to your depth and your depth of understanding. And if you kind of invite or welcome the state of not knowing when you can get to it, and don't freak out, and you kind of just relax in it, it gives you an opportunity to have a perspective that you normally never would have. That openness, that not knowing, means other qualities that we don't really use most of the time when we know things. Other qualities in us get to be kind of brought out and activated. So that's what's important to know about not knowing. Your knowledge doesn't go anywhere. All of your skills, all of your beautiful qualities and your depth, that doesn't go anywhere. You have it. You don't become some mindless blob that just doesn't go anywhere. You have it. So opening yourself up to times of not knowing, meaning that intimacy with that deeper part of yourself that exists even when you don't know what's going on, even when you don't know who you are, where you're going, what to do, how to make a decision. The intimacy with that part of yourself that just is in existence, the qualities of that part of yourself don't get to come out unless that not knowing is there. So the key to all of this is to become comfortable when you hit a patch where you don't know. And it's okay that you don't know. So think about it this way. I'm sure one of your Christmases or one of your holidays, whatever you celebrate, or a birthday, anything, when you get a package that's wrapped and you look at that package, you don't know what it is, but you can imagine lots of things that's in that package. Your imagination is like, wow, it could be this valuable thing. It could be this thing that I've been wanting. It could be somebody's, heirloom that they're trying to leave me, whatever you're thinking it is. But the minute you unwrap it, guess what? It's only one thing. So those qualities you are using to imagine and feel and project and dream about what could be in this wrapped package, all of those qualities, all those skills, and all those ingredients that you use to kind of think into the future as to what it is, all that stops. You open it up and there's like, oh, great, thanks for the sweater. Okay. It's only a sweater. And since it's only a sweater, there's not a lot to dream about. There's not a lot to think about. There's not a lot to kind of create. And so all of those things that were happening for you are no longer happening. Okay? So it's like that. When we know something it's not necessarily the greatest thing. And as we go through our lives, we do know things. We know how long to cook a hamburger now because we burnt one last week. We know that if I go this way on my way to work, there's more traffic than when I go there. Just by living, you're going to know things. Okay. But when we're talking about things like, what is my career choice that I need to make? What do I need to do to create a healthier life for myself? As you go through your experiences and your experimentations, you do know things. But along the way, the not knowing isn't dangerous for you. It's not really a state of vulnerability. It's not really a state of that you need to be afraid of. Okay, so getting to know that place of you, the place in you where you don't know, and where you get to when you don't know, and starting to be more comfortable with that is really a key feature of anybody who wants to do like a lifelong personal development journey, because anything that we know now could actually be in our way. So think about it this way. Let's say you have some kind of physical symptom that you can't figure out, and the symptom you're looking it up online and you're going to this doctor and nobody can figure it out. At that moment, whatever you know already about that physical symptom is getting in your way of actually finding what it is, right? So the few things that you know about that symptom could be totally blocking the actual diagnosis and treatment of what it actually is. And I think you must know what I'm talking about. So a little bit of knowledge about something sometimes is very dangerous. So as we go through our lives and becoming more and more okay with not knowing, the possibilities of what the answer is, or what the piece of knowledge is, or the piece of information, or the experiences that we're trying to get to, you get to approach it from all different directions instead of with a tiny piece of knowledge that may or may not even apply to what you're trying to do. Okay? So, this life is way bigger than what we know. And how do we know new things? We go through life, we experiment, we try things. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we succeed, and we kind of learn like that. We learn through life experiences. But along the way, allowing ourselves the freedom and the liberty of not knowing without being freaked out is what's really important. Okay, so I want you to check out this little video here about the idea of knowing something possibly being in the way of a further awareness of that same thing. So check this out and we'll reconnect on the other side.
The cup of tea. Once upon a time, there was a Japanese Zen master. One day he was visited by a professor who was very interested in Zen Buddhism. The Zen master welcomed him and served him a cup of tea. The professor started to list his degrees and said, "I already know much about the world and about Buddhism too, but I wanted to expand my knowledge. Please, teach me everything you know about Zen." The Zen master didn't answer. He poured tea into his cup, but when the cup was full, he kept on pouring. When the professor saw the cup overflow, he said, "The cup is already overflowing. It is full. Nothing more will go in." The Zen master stopped pouring tea into the full cup and replied, "Like this cup, you are too full of opinions and knowledge. I cannot teach you Zen unless you first empty your cup."
And so you can see here from this little story the example of wanting an answer, wanting more, when what we know is already filled up about the subject, and we can't fit any more in. There's nothing else that can go in that cup. So it's about emptying the cup. And I'm talking today about not necessarily emptying it yourself, but times when you feel like your cup is empty, like my cup of knowledge, the cup of what I know about this thing that I need to do something about is empty, and what to do then. So life has a way of filling up our cup. And when we find ourselves with an empty cup, not knowing what to do, how to make a decision, we will engage in different qualities of our human existence to try and find those things out. And again, like I said before, the key is to not get freaked out about it. Or if you get freaked out, do whatever you can to calm down and to relax and realize that not knowing is not a dangerous, scary, or vulnerable place. It is part of our life. And so one of the best ways to really kind of understand how that is part of our life is to understand the idea of liminal space. Liminal space. So basically, in a nutshell, liminal space is when we are between two things, between two realities, between two things happening. It was that, but it's not yet this. It's like a threshold space where there seems like nothing's happening. So think about it in terms of a pregnancy. You were not pregnant, and now you're pregnant, but there's no child visible outside of the body yet. And so the child can be said to be in liminal space. And we all know how much goes on in that time period that we literally can't see, even with ultrasound. We can't see it. There's all kinds of important things happening in the space between two spaces. And so think about it in terms of just a regular human life, not about pregnancy, but about a transition time, going from adolescent into young adulthood, going from midlife into past midlife. There's always these transitions in our lives where we're not that thing anymore, but yet we're not yet the next thing that we're supposed to be or that we're moving into. And so we're in that kind of netherland between the two. So just like with a pregnancy, in our lives and in our transitions and in our liminal time here, there are things happening that could not happen otherwise. There are things happening in that kind of shady place that are not happening otherwise. There's a beautiful book by Thomas More called Dark Nights of the Soul. It's about the St. John of the Cross original idea of the dark night of the soul. So in it, he talks about liminal space a bit and talks about depression and, which is kind of what the book is about, and talks about that time, that in-between time, that liminal time as being lit more by moonlight rather than sunlight. And so when things are lit by moonlight, everything's got a kind of the edges are not as crisp. They're kind of shady and shadowy. Everything's got a softer glow to it. Everything is kind of permeable and moving into one another. Things are not as defined. And this is a time that we all go through from time to time. It is a space where we get lessons that we otherwise couldn't have gotten. We get insights that we otherwise can't get when we know something, when we're on track, right? And so this liminal space, this time in between, is vital for life, is vital for personal development and growth, is vital for spiritual growth, it's vital for any kind of personal development journey, the space in between, like the caterpillar turning into a butterfly. In the cocoon, seems like nothing's happening, but boy, when you come out of that, wow. And probably you know what I'm talking about. But while you're in the cocoon, it feels like, uh-oh, nothing's happening. I don't know what to do. My life is over, blah, blah, blah. You've been there. You know what I'm talking about. So the trick is identify this liminal space, this time of not knowing, as a real thing, as a genuine, valid time in our lives that comes every once in a while. And don't throw it away or try to avoid it as if it's the wrong thing that's happening. It is correct, right? So the trick is, what do you do in the liminal space? The first thing you do is you relax. You recognize I'm in between things. I'm on the threshold between two identities, the threshold between two ways of understanding myself in the world. And as I'm on that threshold, I don't need to fix it any more than I need to fix a caterpillar in a cocoon or a pregnant person. I don't need to fix that. It's all doing whatever it needs to do. Okay, there's a deep intelligence at play here. Same thing with whatever we're going through when we're in that place of not knowing. There's a deep intelligence going on that is calling for us to kind of rest and be aware at the same time. So a wakeful rest, if you can get your head around that. Aware but restful. And that's a whole different type of awareness than anxious awareness. Awake and restful. Because during that time, that downtime, that liminal space is the only way that we're going to see certain things. It's the only way that life is going to be able to operate on us and get us prepared for the next thing, which will inevitably come. The next time of action, the next time of, diving into something, the next time of, really, really deep progress that's visible. Okay, so there's always, always, always something happening here. And so the liminal space as a concept and being able to recognize that is the key. And the other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of not knowing and shifting focus from a knowing place to what happens in a not knowing place, I wanted to talk about negative space, like basically in terms of art. So if you don't know what negative space is, it's when the artist uses basically nothingness or the absence of something to help focus more and drive home the point of the actual thing that's being drawn. So I'm going to put a painting up here for you right now. I want you to take a look at this and look at this woman here, and what helps you focus on her and the emotional quality of whatever she's doing or what elements are around her is look at all the space where there is kind of like nothing or just some little drawings. The big space helps draw your eye back to her. Okay, that's what makes this painting a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more emotional. The thing that's not there ends up driving the point home of what is there. And so coming back to your life, so how can you see this negative space as important? So when you don't know what's going on, when you don't know what to do, the importance of figuring out what to do becomes even more heightened. Okay? And what you already know, instead of being dismissed, may becoming more in line with what's visible. It might be more important. You might see it more clearly. And so when we have the freedom not to know, we have the freedom that I don't know what's going on, and we can relax into that. We're able to use the negative space, meaning nothing happening, knowing nothing. We're able to use that negative space to see what's actually important for what we're doing and what we're trying to figure out. Okay, so even just like the example of art, when you have negative space, the thing that's important becomes even more dramatic, more obvious. When we have that time of not knowing, that liminal space, which is kind of the internal negative space, liminal space, when we have that time and that space and that kind of vast openness without worrying about it, and with realizing this is a natural time in my life and normal, then the important things that we need to glean from that time or whatever we're kind of orienting ourselves to next become even more clear because of that space, because of that not knowing. And if we didn't have that time of not knowing, the other things would not have become clear. So if you look into your life, you'll notice that if you've lived long enough, and I mean, even if you're, early 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, there's not a lot before then. Like Carl Jung says, anything before 40 is research, not excluding people before they're 20, but after a while, you have a decent amount of life experience. And what you can do is look back and realize the times when I didn't know what to do, the times when I had that kind of liminal in between space, always turned out to a place where I eventually figured out what to do, or something was presented to me that made it clear. And that is not going away. That keeps happening to us. The only thing that kind of gets in the way of that is that we have not been taught to understand and value the times of liminal space, the times of not knowing, the times of like not being certain. We haven't been taught to value that, when really it's actually a very, very, very important time, and it's a very rich and valuable time because basically think about it. When you don't know what's going on, you're in that liminal space and things are happening that you're not doing yourself. Things are happening, meaning I'm growing, I'm changing. Elements on the outside world are lining up for this next thing for me to experience. I'm going to meet some person in a certain amount of time that I can't see right now. Things are happening for me and I have no idea, right? And what's important about that is that we get to learn that that is a valuable, important time, just like getting things done and accomplishing things and being successful at things. The time when nothing seems to be happening is actually that important. Okay, so that's really what this episode is about: making the time when it doesn't seem like anything's happening, or the time when I don't know, making that just as important as when you do know. All right, so now I'm going to guide you through a visualization where you can get some direct experience for yourself about this very thing, about how to become aware of the times when you're in liminal space, the times when you're in between knowing what to do and what not to do, and to see what actually happens during that time by taking a close look at it. Check it out, and I'll see you on the other side. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in, and then deeply exhale. Now imagine that it's morning time and you are in the attic of your house. There are some windows letting in the morning light, and the light's illuminating the things that you have stored here. As you're scanning the attic space, you see a gift wrapped box that you hadn't noticed before. What does this wrapped box look like? Upon closer inspection, you see that this box has a small card attached with your name and a date 1 year from today. How does it feel to see your name and a future date written on the card? As you contemplate this gift, you begin to imagine what could be inside the box. Take a few moments to allow your imagination to work. What are your visions about what's inside this box? Who do you think wrapped this box for you? What do you feel is significant about the future date? As you sit quietly in your attic and think about this gift box, you become aware of two parts of yourself. One part wants to open the box to see what's inside. The other part wants to wait until the date written on the box to open it. Just allow these two parts of yourself to have a dialogue with each other. This dialogue is happening in liminal space. You are in an in between state that may feel uncomfortable for the part that wants to know, but also feels necessary for the part that understands how inner development takes time. And so now it's the time to make a choice. Do you open the box or wait? If you do open the box, what do you find inside? If you choose to wait, what is informing your choice? Now, with this experience fully intact in your awareness, and when you're ready, open your eyes and come back into this room. So, how's that experience for you? Were you able to get anything out of that for your personal journey here, as in terms of liminal space, how to navigate it, how to move through it? Did anything come up for you that you can take into your life in the future? That's what's important here about these guided visualizations that I do for you pretty much every week. Don't leave it here. Take it with you. Use it. This is your system giving you information about that inquiry that you're doing. So, last thing about this idea is to make sure you see this not knowing, this liminal space, this time in between, as a requisite part of your life. It needs to happen every once in a while. It needs to happen so that, just like we get a bug every once in a while so that your immune system will kick in and develop antibodies and so forth. We need this time of liminal space in order to reorient ourselves for the next things that are coming, the next things that we're about to do, the next aspects of our lives, the transitional times. And so this is it's important to see it that when you find yourself in a state of not knowing and you feel uncomfortable about it, try to remind yourself that this is not a mistake. This is an absolutely normal way that life moves for every human being. Not a mistake, not to be avoided, not to be worried about. It came, it will happen, and then it will pass, and then you'll be back into another phase. Okay, so don't avoid it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't think something's gone wrong. It's necessary to bring out other parts of ourselves that if we just keep going from, I know exactly what I'm doing and nothing ever gets in my way, just think of how poor we would be if we didn't have to kind of dig deeper and be in a place where something else is happening to us to transform us. You know, this time is also a mystery. And the mystery of liminal space, the mystery of not knowing, means that there's other energies working on us on our behalf. There are other things that are, and I'm not talking about entities or anything like that. I'm just saying there are, existential awarenesses and energies that help us to grow and develop because it's a natural thing. And so the fact that you don't know, the fact that you're in between, the fact that even that you feel stuck is a normal feeling and something that we need to work with instead of against. Most of us like to avoid the feeling that comes when we don't know where we're going or what we're doing or how to choose the correct path. And so if we can learn to embrace and lean into the times of not knowing, we find that there are gifts and insights within them that can't be grasped in any other circumstance. The intimacy with our deeper selves that can come from allowing ourselves to simply not know will deepen the experience of our individuality, and it's going to further develop our character and inner strength. So if you find yourself in a place of not knowing, just breathe deep and rest and take in the richness and awe of the present moment. And that's our show for this week. I hope you have gleaned something very valuable for your own journey, and hopefully you're going to take something with you and share this with other people. But most of all, make sure that you keep going on whatever journey you're on, whether it's a spiritual journey, a psychological journey, both, combination of the two. Keep moving because that's kind of what life is for. So until next week, I want to invite you to go to my website, thegeniusway.com, sign up for a free membership to my resource folder. And then until next week, stay curious, be kind to yourself, and remember that your genius has something to say.
Thanks for watching The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel. Make sure to visit thegeniusway.com for the resources you need to help you on your personal life journey. You can contact Ben at ben@thegeniusway.com. And you can follow The Genius Way with Ben Hummel on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for streaming The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel.